Lindley Johnson is the Planetary Defense Officer in charge of NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office. While that might conjure up images of thrilling space battles ending in city-sized ships being destroyed over New York or LA, his work is more down to earth in reality, but no less important. As a scientist and engineer with NASA, he has for decades focused his efforts on finding and tracking objects in space. He has led several missions to explore and study our solar system with an emphasis on asteroids and comets.
NASA runs a program that has several projects in it, largely using ground-based observatories right now, to search the skies every possible night. We work with an international collaboration of astronomers around the world within what we call the International Asteroid Warning Network to find and catalog this population of asteroids and comets whose orbits bring them near Earth's orbit and over time could represent a collision hazard with the Earth. And I head up all of NASA's efforts to find the asteroids before they find us. Well, planetary defense is based upon the known hazard to Earth of asteroids and comets that come into the inner solar system and represent a collision hazard with the Earth. It certainly happened to the Earth many times in its geologic past, and the population of objects out there means it will happen in the future. It's just a question of time. We're on the lookout for the much larger stuff that could make it all the way through Earth's atmosphere and cause damage at the surface. We use the knowledge that we have gained in the exploration of the solar system to be able to protect the Earth now from that natural collision hazard.
His career was born from a deep fascination with space and technology.
Frankly, I cannot remember a time when I wasn't interested in space and science. There are pictures of me when I was 7 or 8 years old with my backyard telescope looking at the stars. I grew up in the Apollo era when the Apollo astronauts were landing on the moon. And so I always wanted to be part of the space program. But I saw my way to do that was getting into the Air Force. So I was in Air Force ROTC in college. I started out in helping to track all the satellites and objects that had been put into Earth's orbit. When the space shuttles first started going up, that's when we really first became concerned there in the early 80s about collision between what had been put into space. So that's how I kind of cut my teeth on this business in computing orbits, determining when collisions could occur. And now what I do is just a macro cosmos of that. I'm protecting the Earth from the natural debris that is left over from the formation of the solar system.
While locating and tracking asteroids and comets is a major part of his job, learning about what makes up these objects is also important.
Well, one of the first things we need to know after we know the existence of a potential hazard to the Earth is what is its composition? How big is it? What is it made up of? What's its density or porosity, as we say in the business? So we understand what the mass is, because the amount of mass that is heading towards us at the speeds it is, 14,000 kilometers an hour or something like that. That's what determines the energy that it's going to hit us with. So we need to understand the composition from that aspect to understand what is the level of threat that we're facing. Then, having found them and enough time to do something about them in space, we need to understand those same kinds of things to know what is going to be the most effective method to try to deflect it from its orbit. Is it small enough and of enough strength that if we hit it with a kinetic impactor, is that going to be enough to deflect it from its orbit, or we're going to have to use something possibly more energetic because time is shorter, or it's a larger object like a nuclear explosive device. Now that's kind of the technique of last resort, we like to say, because using nuclear devices in space is not looked upon very well by the international community. But unfortunately, we could find ourselves in a position where that is the only source that has enough energy to do the deflection. So that gets back to one of the reasons why our surveillance survey program is so important, is that we want to find them far enough ahead of time so that we've got years, decades of advance notice, so we don't have to resort to something as extreme as that. We can use a kinetic impactor, possibly a gravity tractor is another technique. There are a few others out there that we'd like to test to see if they're effective too.
His career in space is grounded in a foundation of constant learning and classic science fiction.
In my younger years, when I was in grade school and such, we actually didn't have a TV. I grew up on a farm in Kansas. We just didn't have a TV yet, but I read a lot of science fiction when I was young, all the classic Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, all of that. But then when we got a TV, I got into Star Trek. I never saw the original series when it was originally aired, but I saw all the reruns and such. And actually the very first show about what I now call Planetary Defense was in the original Star Trek series. There's an episode called The Paradise Syndrome, and it's about protecting a planet from a asteroid impact. First thing about a career in science or space technology, those kinds of things, is maintaining your curiosity. Reading everything you can that interests you, not necessarily about space, but in science, engineering, math in general, just to naturally pick up all the knowledge that is out there, and knowledge is so available to people today because of the internet. The space business needs all kinds of talent from across a spectrum of professional skills. We're not all space scientists that are astrophysics. We also need folks that are just, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, all those kinds of skills, but also communication skills, people that deal with the media. We even need lawyers occasionally too. Keep that curiosity up and keep looking to the stars.
Baltimore County Public Library caught up with Lindley Johnson and other scientists and authors at Shore Lead 42. For more information, go to www.shore-leave.com.